And we have really missed out in our desire to control, to simplify, in our thinking that we are really the center of the universe. We have missed out on this back and forth that occurs between us and plants, between us and flowers, between us and our pets. But even on objects that don't seem like they have, inanimate objects, there is a continuous relationship. The tree is as happy to see me as I am to see the tree. It's a back and forth. So much of what oppresses us in jobs that are very demanding, or in being around people that are in dire situations or suffering, comes from this idea that it is up to us to cure it or to get rid of it, as opposed to we have the unique opportunity to participate in that, to offer our skills, to offer whatever we know. It might alleviate it, it might not, but that it is part of the human life, and a very beautiful and important part of the human life. Now, people identify other pressures, that people are getting turned into commodities, one doctor unit, one patient unit, everything is a commodity and an exchange commodity. How do you make more money? How do you keep, which is what our whole culture has done. It's turned everything into a commodity, including the trees and the bees and the flowers and each other. But what's going to solve it is not necessarily changing how we do it, how a hospital is run, how physicians work or don't work, who regulates it, what are the laws around it. All those will need to change. But what will really make the change, a true change, a quantum change, is for each one of us, patients and doctors, to have a very different relationship to our own illness, to our own life, to our own death. That will inform the rise of a new society in a much deeper way than any twinking with the system. And for each one of us, in putting the time to have an inner relationship with what hurts us or what we feel is challenging, there's an immediate reward. There is an immediate reward of shifting mindset. Sometimes it is so subtle that having a guide as you do it is very useful, because you could go right over it and miss it. Same as how when we use our ears to hear, we miss the presence of this consciousness that can choose what to hear, that can become big or small. We take it so for granted. They say, like the nose on your face, that's how close it is. And it's so subtle that it often requires a guide next to you to point it out. But unlike a therapist, unlike a doctor, unlike many other things, this is not a treatment. This is literally taking a tour inside your own self, inside your own body, inside your own awareness, with somebody that's pointing out to you the sights. And over time, you know what the Colosseum looks like. You know what St. Peter's look like. You don't need a permanent guide to point it to you. But initially, it takes somebody to say, stop, stop. You're missing Leonardo's painting that is here on the left. Stop, stop. Take in this flower that's on the right. It is much more important than what you think. So that's the offering of, can I be a guide for somebody to start seeing within themselves a completely different relationship to their own life in their own suffering and their own potential. And having an experience of growth and creativity and strength that is far beyond what the personality or the mind can offer. You know, it's so interesting because a lot of us that were raised in the 60s and felt like we were activists and whatever, felt like a moral responsibility to change the world, to take action, to do things. So this idea that the biggest action you can take is internal seems, is almost, it's very hard to hear. And immediately the reaction is like, oh my God, don't you want to fight the Nazis? Don't you want to do something? Don't you want? And sure you do. But the extraordinary thing is that you do what you can do when the opportunity arises, and then that's powerful. And it's not always the same thing. And there's something really liberating when there's nothing else you can do. You know, like when you get to this point, which is like, there is nothing else I can do out there, then you kind of let it all be, let it go. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to do something inside myself. And you can choose joy. And it's not a crime to feel joy in the middle of some horrific situations. But we kind of feel like it is. So we're caught in this thing about as long as people are suffering, we have to suffer. We cannot feel joy because that would be a cop out. That would be some negation of their suffering. And at the same time, what better thing is to be around somebody who's profoundly joyful, who has this reverence for life. Life itself, not the cars or the houses or the possessions or the status or, none of that, but life itself. And the beautiful thing is that it can be found in a cup of tea, like a sip of water, like in the same way that it's found in champagne. So it is profoundly democratic. And it's profoundly open to absolutely everybody. And that's the beauty of seeing it happen inside of a concentration camp, when somebody's been stripped of everything. Their own self-worth, their own dignity. And yet, our relationship with ourselves, and this profound gratitude that we can feel for just having a body, for breathing, for having a heart rate, for the miracle of being born whatever way we're born. Nobody can take that away from us, and nobody can give it to us. That's the only thing that we have total agency on and total choice about. And it's a source of tremendous freedom. And I suspect it also allows people around you to be happier and more open.